Professor B.S. Batola is from Department of Textile Fiber Engineering, IIT Delhi. Will be moderating this session. I am handing it over to you, Professor Batola. Please take it forward from here.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Let me welcome you all to this summit, the third session. I think all the speakers are here already. And yesterday we had very fruitful discussions on sustainability, circularity. I think most of you were already present here yesterday, and you have got some idea about these concepts. Today we are going to delve a little deeper into the concepts which are employed to improve the efficiency of the processes that are employed in, especially in textile sector. I'll just introduce the experts. On my right hand side is Professor Jha, Sunil Kumar Jha from Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Delhi. And he's an expert in advanced manufacturing, robotics, mechatronics, smart fluids, and others. And he'll be primarily talking about the Industry 4, smart manufacturing, digital manufacturing. On my left hand side, we have Mr. Duret, who was here also yesterday. And he's from a certification body. Then we have Mr. Sanjeev Sinha, who is from Indorama and looks after sustainability division. And then we have Mr. Rajendra. He is from Nepal and is Deputy Director, Trade and Export Promotion Center. And then we'll have one Professor, Rudjit Paul, will be joining us from Sweden online. His area is textile value chain. So he talks about sustainability, resilience of this supply chain. And I think we are going to have a very good technical session in the sense that we have got actually experts today. So we'll start with Professor Jha. He'll be talking about general manufacturing, not very specific to textiles. But let us welcome Dr. Jha. Dr. Jha, over to you.
Thank you very much. Can I have my slides right now? So by the time slides are coming in, let me brief about the activities that we are doing at IIT Delhi. So we have a very good center for smart manufacturing. That's a foundation for smart manufacturing. Last 4 years, we are working on all the technologies that are relevant to the Industry 4 implementation. So the idea behind the Industry 4 concept, I am sure that most of you are familiar with it, how the industry revolution has been classified in the different versions right now. And we keep talking about the different technologies that are going to be part of the Industry 4.0 implementation. So most of the digitalization and the automation is already being covered in the Industry 3.0. So we all are familiar with the automation, and the robotics is already being implemented. So most of the implementation that we did in Industry 4 is the cyber physical integration part, how you will be going to control the system that are on the shop floor through the cloud and the web interfaces and the technology related to that. Now we are talking about the next industrial revolution. I'm sure that you might have heard about that also. So as we all realize the limitations of the automation and the the impact of the automation that is on the environment and then human being. When we are thinking about the next revolution, that is already the words in the market, people are talking about that, and that is more on the human-centric, sustainable, and resilient manufacturing. So I'll just give you a quick glance on the concept of the industrial revolutions from the automation to the industrial revolution 5.0 we are talking about right now. So when we think about Industry 4, certainly we all understand and appreciate the role of the data. That's how the digitalization is something which is transforming the industry. And then we are trying to accelerate the production processes. And in this case, basically, we are trying to change the role of the worker, basically, what he's supposed to do, because most of the automation we have already implemented by now. How we are going to use the data for making processes more efficient, actually, and more data driven, even the decision making to be driven from the data that is being captured through the processes. So this is all being done and conceived around the Industry 4.0. Now, when we think about the impact of what is happening in terms of the automation and Industry 4, now we are thinking about the next generation of the next industrial revolution, what should be done. We all understand the role of human being in the automated systems, and it's going to be decreased significantly as we are understanding now. But then we need to consider the society as well. So the next version or next thought process for the industrial revolution has been built around the human-centric approach, basically. So idea is to promote the talents, diversity, and empowering people, actually. So now we are no more talking about the machines and automation and robotics alone. We'll also be talking about something should be developed around the human being. And the idea is behind to empower people to do the task, actually. So technology is more or less being used to empower people to do the manufacturing now. Then certainly we look forward for more agile and resilient systems, basically, because the kind of demand from the market keep on fluctuating, varying a lot. So we will be thinking about the agile systems, more flexible manufacturing, more rescheduling can be happen on a real-time basis. And the last, we are all concerned about the environment. So sustainability is a very important part that need to be taken care of. And I'm sure that all of you have heard about this change in not only in the mindset of the manufacturer, but it is more even demanded by the consumers also. So today people are more aware and conscious about the impact of the product on the environment, and they will be choosing the right option out of that. So when we think about Industry 5.0, the next version of the implementation of Industry Revolution, it will be more around the human being, making system more flexible and agile to meet the market need. And then it should be sustainable. It should not be impacting an environment. That's how the concept of circular economy will also coming into picture. So when we think about Industry 5.0, so I'm just talking about the bridge between the existing revolution where we are working on. Certainly, we are in a stage to embrace and adopt the Industry 4.0. As we all heard about that, the industry, Indian manufacturing industry has not been even adopted Industry 4 completely, and we start talking about the next revolution. So the idea is that it's not a complete disjoint activity. It has to be in a kind of an activity that has to be transitioned from the current state to the future expectations. So we need to understand that aspect. So when we think about Industry 5.0, certainly we will be trying to achieve more societal goals beyond just the job and the growth of an industry. We'll be trying to make it focused around the human being and then targeting the well-being of the industrial worker also. So now you see the shift in the mindset that is expected now. On one side, we keep talking about the automations, the robotics, and the similar technologies which are not too much human dependent, actually. And now all of a sudden we see there's a shift in the thinking process also. So we are talking about more people-centric and then thinking about the role of a worker and how it can be enabled, basically, and certainly the impact on the environment as well. So if you see here, now the shift is from the shareholder to the stakeholder, actually. So we all are the stakeholder in the process. So as a user, as a producer, everybody is in the process. And then we will be thinking about the reinforcement of the role of the industry to the society, actually. That is how the concepts being evolved. So we'll also be talking about the prosperity beyond the jobs, basically, because, and then this is a very important concept, that the production limits of the planet. It doesn't mean that we have an automated system. For example, I'm just talking about the discrete manufacturing. If you are manufacturing cars or some similar systems, we should not keep on extending the boundaries beyond the need also. So that is something is very important to understand. We should respect the production limits of the planet. So that's how the sustainability come into picture. This is another important part, as I said. So when we talk about the new versions, we'll always think about that the previous version going to be obsolete. So it's not going to happen like that. It complements the existing Industry 4.0 approach. So we will be keep doing what we are doing as a part of Industry 4.0, and then look forward that how the technology is going to help us in implementing the goal we are setting for the Industry 5.0 implementations. So certainly the research and innovation we need to be put together so that we can be talking about more sustainability and the resilient in manufacturing. I'll just quickly explain how the transition from 4 to 5 will work in this case. So when we think about the Industry 4.0, as I was mentioning, that we are more talking about the data and the digitalization basically. Now, how this digitalization is going to help us in achieving the sustainability, I'm just going to give you a quick glance on that. So the first thing we understood about the digitalization means the better data. We are now getting the data from the processes, what is going on. And then there's a lot of data being collected, which is giving me the insight about the inefficiencies in the system. So from data, what we are exactly analyzing that how optimal the processes are going on, in how much time this product has to be prepared. So if you look at that, it will bring out more visibility to the ongoing inefficiencies. You see, unless we know that where are the inefficiencies, we will not be able to make them more efficient. So the digitalization part and the data part is certainly giving me a better insight on what are the inefficient part in my system. And then certainly we will also be understanding the part of the rejections, the losses that we are going to make on that. So it will be giving me the ability to basically improve the efficiency part with a better accuracy. That is what I am expecting out of the data. So certainly after that, once we have a better data, we'll certainly look forward for improving the productivity part, because that's the target with the Industry 4.0 as well. We look forward for the higher productivity in this case. And that can happen only once we improve the efficiency. So we are talking about improving the productivity with the means of the efficiency only. You will have a better control on the processes. So you will exercise a better control once you have a data from the system. So not only for the monitoring, also for the control part, there's a less probability of making mistakes in the system. So once we are thinking about the mass production or maybe the large capital production, if there is a single mistake in the production process, maybe the quality get impacted by some means of the inefficiency in the system, it's certainly led to the larger rejections basically. So when we think about the digitalization, we'll certainly trying to get a more control over the processes so that there will be less probability of the mistakes, and we will be basically making less rejections in the whole system. It's very important from the sustainability point of view, because if you are going to make more rejections, it's certainly going to be a waste of the time and resources, and certainly how you are going to recycle and reuse the waste product is again a question mark here. We are also thinking about implementing technologies which are relevant to the digitalization, is the digital twin, so that it will enable you to take the product faster to the market. And certainly digital twin is going to implement the efficiency part at a large scale. It's not just limited to the one equipment or one process. Then you are able to visualize the whole systems and you will be able to simulate the whole system as a one single integrated part. Now from there, once we have improved the productivity, once we have enhanced the productivity, then certainly we will be able to get a higher efficiency and the sustainability part. Now how the sustainability will be there? Certainly we have improved the productivity, we have reduced the rejections in the whole system, whole processes. We have improved the efficiency part over here, and that will lead to the cost reduction part, and certainly we will be able to save the rejection part over here. And then we are going to embrace the circular economy here actually. That's a very important part to understand when we are thinking about sustainability. Certainly the circular economy is coming into picture. I'll just give you a quick glance on that. Till now, even Industry 4.0 is not giving a lot of emphasis on the circular economy. Now we'll start understanding the impact on the environment from the manufacturing activities right now. So linear is just a simple take, make and waste. So whatever we'll take from the environment, make something out of it, make the products, and certainly we will just discard the products after the use actually. So that is the linear economy concept. So we'll take out the raw material from the the earth, that is the resources basically that are available, natural resources that are available to us. We use certain manufacturing processes, make the products, and then throw them as a waste once they are being used actually. Now, this is very detrimental to us. That's what people get conscious about and start thinking about the Industry 5.0, and sustainability is a very key factor into implementation of that. So when we think about circular economy, certainly we would like to eliminate waste, so that we would like to make processes more efficient in this case, less impact on the environment. That is how we will be starting with. Circulate the product and the material. So we'll not be just going to discard the product after the use actually. We would like to certainly make use of the product after that in the form of either recyclable format, or you will be certainly going to use some components of the waste product and then going to use it in a new product actually. So that is something is very important, and certainly everything is going to regenerate the nature, so that you will not end up in getting the natural resources towards the end. Let me give you a quick example on that, certainly, because there are two concepts I'll just pick up. One is this is a kind of a product that's an appeal. You all have seen that how the vegetable products or the fruits and vegetables are wrapped with the thin films, basically the polymer films. That is not basically the eco-friendly approach. So this is one product that has been developed where they are putting a layer of the natural product around, so that they will be able to save the moisture part or the content, and it will be giving the same benefits as the artificial polymeric films are giving. So this is one development. Certainly the textile or the fashion industry is another very important area, and we all are familiar with the way we are using the clothes, and we are rejecting the clothes, and then we are keep on dumping a lot of clothes in the house and everywhere around. So I'm sure that as a user we all understand that aspect. This is another concept that has been implemented, thread up basically. So I'm just giving you live examples how the sustainability has been taken into account while they are going for manufacturing this. So the concept is that in thread up they have just made the process more suitable for the users to use the reused textiles, basically, to make them to use in a second-hand textiles, but not. So we are certainly feel little offended when someone suggests us to use a used textile over here. But they have presented and they have recycled and they have delivered in such a way that people are appreciating this, and they are certainly in the responsibility towards the environment and the sustainable world. They are adopting this culture actually. And then if you see that even they have just made this statement in 2020 that even a single US user just bought one reused item, the kind of impact that is going to create on the environment is magnificent. If you see that you are going to save 1.6 million of CO2, 100 billion liters of the water, and 200 million kilos of the waste, just once users start using the reused clothes. So that's how the impact we need to look forward when we think about the products, how the regeneration of the nature will happen, and how the product will come back and taken into use. So certainly you will be able to make it more sustainable. Now, when we think about the technologies, so how they will be different from the Industry 4.0 and what something is to be required in 5.0. I'll just give you a quick glance on that, not going too much deep into that in today's session. But we need to understand, sir, as we all appreciate the role of the technology in Industry 4.0, what kind of technologies are expected in 5.0? Certainly, we look forward for more smarter materials, more embedded sensors into the system, and the more biosphere technologies. Let me give you a quick glance on that, what is expected over here. Certainly, we are talking about more human-centric solutions and human-machine interactions. So technology that enable people or that basically empowered people to interact with the machines, basically. So those are the technologies that are going to play an important role in Industry 5.0. We are also talking about more bio-inspired technologies and the smart materials, so that will allow the materials with the embedded sensors. You will be, because ultimately we look forward for this data to be made available even when we may transition to the 5.0 as well. We are talking about the real-time based digital twins that will always be there, because we would like to run the whole system in a more efficient way. We would like to simulate the whole process so that will not end up in generating a lot of rejections over there. So simulation of the whole entire system. We'll look forward for the secure system. Certainly the cybersecurity is an important part of that. Now, using intelligence, whatever we all understand in terms of the use of AI, to empower people, basically to certainly detect the events in the more complex and dynamic systems and leading to the more actionable intelligence. So certainly the input from the AI will be empowering people to take the right decisions, and certainly the technologies for energy efficiencies and trustworthy autonomy. Then we also look forward for technologies like the multilingual and gesture, so that empowering people interaction with the machines, more robotic system working collaboratively with the people. AR and VR certainly empowering a lot to the people to get a more insight into what is happening into the system right now, and enhancing the physical human capability, so that now we are not just talking about a standalone robots, we are thinking about more exoskeletons, so that they will be giving more power for the human beings to operate on. So these kind of systems are also be a part of the industry 5.0 implementations. So I'll just look forward. This is one of the foundation that we are having at IIT Delhi. We are working with the industry in basically demonstrating these industry 4.0 technologies. So these are the areas of the technologies we are already working right now. We have in a systems where we keep on doing research and new developments on these technologies. Certainly 5.0 new to us also. We have not yet started fully working in the domain of the sustainability, how these three aspect that I was mentioning to be taken care of, but certainly we need to start in that direction as well. Thank you. That's what my initial remarks.
That was a wonderful and very informative session that was delivered by Dr. Jha. Dr. Jha, I would like you to elaborate a little on, supply chain resilience. Just so that, because this is a new term, and post COVID and post this Ukraine war, this has come little more in the focus. So can you in a few sentences tell our audience?
Yes, certainly. So whenever we are going to manufacture any product, first of all, none of the OEMs are making each and everything within their own premises. So that's a very important part to understand. So any of the product we look forward, it's heavily dependent on the suppliers. So they may be either supplying the raw material to the OEMs, or they may be the semi-finished goods, or in the sub-assembly form, it will be coming to the manufacturers, who will be putting them together to make the complete product. So in this case, we are mostly 70-80% are dependent on the suppliers. And then how we will be getting these supplies is ultimately deciding what I am going to make a production out of my facility. So in this case, when we are thinking about the sources of these components, certainly some of them are available within the country, some of them are to be sourced from the outside the country. So when we think about the resilient supply chain, certainly we need to make sure that whenever we are going to assemble the final product, these all resources will be made available to me as and when required actually. So once you're too much dependent on the import, certainly that is going to impact, as he's mentioning about the Ukraine. So any import item that is coming to you is going to impact your product, how you are going to make the product. And we all understand the kind of deficiencies happening in the market because of the semiconductors and other components that are not available. So ultimately it's going to impact what I'm going to make produce actually. So when we are thinking about the resilience, certainly we need to have the technology options available with us within the country premises, that we always look forward that, so that we will be self-sustainable and self-reliant in making those goods which will be giving you the final product. And then how you will be make it available. So most of the time we are rest assured that if this is available somewhere outside, let's not do a research and let's not develop the product in-house. So that kind of mindset required a good change right now, because we are heavily dependent, especially when we think about the India, we are heavily dependent on the resources that are required to make any of the product, and especially the semiconductor domain, we are all familiar with this. So resilience means how we can align the whole supply chain so that the availability, the dependence of one supplier on another should be handled in such a way that the whole supply chain should not be impacted by any of the external factors. And certainly that's what we look forward to use more technologies. You should have the right information about the products, where they are available right now, the different options you should be available about, so that you can source the product from a right location at the right cost. So these are some systems which are more dependent on the data that will help me in taking the right decisions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So you might be aware that our government is focusing heavily on Make in India initiative, and that is partly to tide over these disruptions of supply chain. Thank you so much, Dr. Jha. And next we have Mr. Duret, and it is up to you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Vincent Dredz. I'm a Textile Business Unit Manager at EcoCert Group. For the one who knows, EcoCert Group is a certification body located in France, but we are operating worldwide in more than 27 countries in the world, and also in India. In India, we are present in India for more than 25 years, and especially for food sector, cosmetics, and also for textile sector. In my presentation today, I have not the possibility to display anything. There's a computer issue. Never mind. I will try to explain to you my purpose and my presentation like this. First of all, I would like to go back to a definition we talked yesterday. I think it's important also about what we said, what we call sustainability. I think it's also very, very important to go back to this definition in order to better understand how the certifications, what we call sustainable certification or certification, will be created, designed, because it's in order to answer to this definition, in fact. First, so sustainability. Sustainability is defined by the three important pillars. Like the first one is environment. The second one is social part, and the third one is economy. So the different approaches I will present it to you will work and try to work and improve some practices and on different topics, economy, environment, or social play, just social parts, but not on everything altogether. So I think it's almost maybe one or two approach could be designed for that, but it's very special if we could have only one certification managing the whole sustainability approach. So for sure, it's always difficult to say that this is a sustainable fiber. Organic cotton is a sustainable fiber. This is a sustainable product, because we need to take into account the whole dimension of the sustainable approach. So basically, we are mainly focusing on environment. Also, we have a specific social certification available on the market, and we have also possible certifications that could handle also the economical part, but mainly in link with the environment. So if we could see the different certification, the better way to see the different certification approaches concerning environment is first to take into account what type of fiber is used in the textile industry. In the textile industry, you have a different type of fibers that could be used, and the different certification will have to address the main environmental issues in link with the type of fiber. For instance, if I take the example of natural fiber. Natural fiber represent about a fourth of the total production of fiber production in the world. Natural fiber, the best practices we could implement is organic production. It's the case, for instance, with the fiber you have well developed in India is with cotton. So cotton production is very important and well implemented in India. You have the first provider of organic cotton in the world. And this is one of the most important and environmental approach for production of cotton in the world. So for this type of fiber, we have two types of certification available on the market, mainly two types. We have OCS certification. OCS certification is mainly, OCS is from Textile Exchange Association. OCS certification is only a traceability certification. It means that OCS certification will deal with the fact that we would like to ensure the end consumers that my jacket is made of organic cotton, and to be sure that this is true at the end. So OCS will mainly manage on the composition and traceability issue. No point on environmental aspect, except at the farming level. Okay, because it should be produced regarding the organic methods. Then you have a second certification available of the market. Maybe you better know this one. It is GOTS, G-O-T-S, Global Organic Textile Standard. This is a premium certification. This certification will be able to deal with the most different aspects of the sustainability, I said to you. The environment with the use of organic fiber, the environmental aspect with implementation of environmental policy in the different companies as they are using this certification, but also social aspects. Very social aspect. The last point that is not fully implemented is about the economy, in fact, yet. So for sure, we cannot say that the sustainability approach has been fully completed, but it is one of the major set and premium certifications that is now available on the market. So this is for organic certification. You have also another certification for recycled material. Recycled material, you have two of the certification. It's the same duality you have with organic. You also have the same duality with recycled material. You have RCS certification, like it is for OCS, only a traceability system based on how to guarantee that my product is made of 50%, for instance, recycled material. And you also, so this is similar to OCS. Then you also have a similar certification than GOTS. It is GRS certification. GRS certification is also a certification that provide guarantee on different topics. The first one is about the composition in recycled material. The second one is about environmental issue, and especially with chemical restriction. And then you have social parts. But for GRS, there is no other topic about economy, neither about inequity or residues on textiles. So that's the second approach. Then you have two other approaches available in the market. It is for instance, for wool. It is also a natural fiber. For wool, there's RWS certification. It's a animal welfare certification that is now very well used in the world, especially for brands, to put a focus on animal welfare principle. So for this certification, the topic will be to manage how the sheep will be grown at the farm level to respect the animal welfare principles. Then after that, when the wool will be cut and collected from the farm level, this wool could be used on the whole supply chain, textile supply chain, but there is no other criteria for this. So it's like OCS also certification, a traceability standard for that. Then the last topic I would like to talk about is the fair trade certification. Fair trade certification in EcoCert, we have our own certification called Fair for Life. Fair for Life is also a very interesting certification that could deal with most part of the sustainability, in fact. Because Fair for Life will deal with, for sure, with a fair trade approach. I mean, with in the economic side, with the right income of the farmers, of the producer in the textile side, but also with environment. GOTS will be recognized as equivalent for the standard of Fair for Life certification, but as well, you will have the possibility to use GRS certification or RCS certification, and then you also have social aspect to be required. The last point for this certification, well, that is very interesting, that also this fair trade certification, it should be an agreement, it should be a long-term vision for the different people implementing such a certification, because nowadays it's a big issue when we see the cost of energy growing very fast, when we see also the cost of cotton growing very fast. We need to consider a tool to be able to manage such kind of prices, and such kind of approach could be a very good tool also to manage this kind. When you are dealing quality with a subcontractor, if you just have one shot one order for one day, it's always difficult to manage the quality. If you want to manage quality, you need to have long-term vision and to see improvement you can do with your suppliers. It's very important. But you should do the same thing also in the economic side. If you want if you adhere to the Fair for Life certification, you will need to propose a minimum price for the product you will purchase. But what could be also interesting, you will be also able to define a maximum price. So what is also very interesting is to be able to track and to fix a possibility of evolution of the price within a range that could not be unfair for someone and fair for another one. So the goal is also to be able to be more stable and to settle a very fair economical way of working towards whole supply chains. So that's another possibility of evolution in the market. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Vincent, I have one question for you. Recently in Sri Lanka, a crisis unfolded. And partly it was based on the use of, fertilizer less or pesticide less agriculture. So they were actually trying to go green without use of, pesticide and all that. And their crop production fell, and that led to a crisis. Now, this organic cotton is somewhat similar in the sense that it tries to avoid use of, pesticide and all that. So what do you think is the future in that sense? If the entire world was to, start using green things in that sense, do you think there is a danger of something, some kind of, like we faced in Sri Lanka?
For sure. Pesticide is a big issue. We all have seen the effect of use of pesticide everywhere in the world, and especially in the soil, etc. So we need to convince all the government worldwide to convert to better practices. It's so important, and to change also the regulation on local regulation on that. So for sure, we could have such event like that occurred everywhere in the world. It's always possible, but we all need to consider that a very good way to produce cotton is to use the organic methods in order to avoid any use of pesticide. So it's really important. We see the disasters that could be done for the population, for the farmers, for everyone near the production area. So it's so important to convince all the people to mainly use organic production, especially for natural fibers.
One last question.
Yeah.
You know about BT cotton.
BT cotton, yes.
So where does it fall in this? Whether is it organic cotton or normal cotton or what?
No, BT cotton is a GM cotton. It's a variety of GM cotton, so it's not allowed at all, neither in GOTS, neither in OCS 100.
You don't cover it?
No. Okay. It's not covered, forbidden. It's a very great point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll have Mr. Sanjeev next. And as I introduced, he looks after this sustainability, business of Indorama at Thailand. Let us hear from him, Mr. Sinha. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Butterla, for the kind introduction. To Mr. Rakesh for very efficiently managing and organizing this event. And to PhD CCI, I'll put my sincere thanks to get this event organized. Although this subject we've been hearing for last few years, but we also see that there are so many dimensions to this that one discussion is not enough. Yesterday we were discussing a lot on the textile sustainability and the opportunities, the challenges, the threats, and what kind of efforts are being done on the textile side. But that is a very small part of the overall sustainability challenge we are facing. So I would like to take you through the reasons why we are talking about sustainability. So I am a mechanical engineer. I've worked in industry for 32 years, and I've been through chemical process industry, a polymer industry, which is a very heavy user of energy and fuels. So it runs on mainly energy. And for most part of my career, my focus was on improving the energy efficiency, to improve the efficiency of machines and the processes, so that we can have less consumptions and cost savings. At that time, the question of GHG footprint or carbon dioxide emissions or the sustainable footprint, these were not what we were hearing around us. It was something we didn't hear. But suddenly, around 10 or 15 years back, although the geologists and the climatologists have been talking for the last 40 or 50 years that the glaciers are vanishing from Himalayas, the polar caps are starting to melt, the sea levels are rising, because they project the world which is 20, 30, 50 and 100 years in advance. So they have a view which normally is not available to a normal person like us. So they can see the future 50 years hence, and they can see that the climate is changing. So when they started, people were laughing at them. People were saying that these are academics who are creating some interesting topics so that people can discuss. And that continued for some time. And these studies, they were a realm of only academics and the think tanks. But in last 20 years, sustainability started to come up as a more serious discussion, because the effects were getting more pronounced, and as the people were starting to get affected by more rains or less water, some places more rising sea levels, the focus on global warming intensified, and with that the focus on sustainability has started to pick a lot of momentum. And now we can see that most of the leading companies in the world, they talk a lot about sustainability. Each of the leading corporates, they will have a sustainability department. They will have a chief sustainability officer. So this was a position which was not there 20 years before. But now, if you go to any top company, they will have a chief sustainability officer. So why it is so? Means people, companies, they don't employ people to sit around and do nothing. It must be something important. That is why they need people who can handle sustainability. So the main reasons are something which I would like to share with you. And I'm very heartened to see that even in this small gathering, the majority of us is a very young crowd. So this message is mainly to the young people in the room, that what is the cost of sustainability, what are the challenges, because it is you who are going to drive these changes. We are the ones who have probably seen the earliest part, but you will be facing the main effects of this change. So if you are more aware of these and you are more activized, probably it will be a greater effort than any of us. So this is just a graph showing the human evolution over the last 12,000 years. So 12,000 years is the time which is human progress is more recorded. And if you can see the earlier part, the human population was very small, 3 or 4 million people around the world. Even in 1900, the population was 1.6 billion. And from then, every 25 years, we have been adding almost a billion people. And 2022, we are 7.9 billion already. So we have grown almost 5 times in last 100 years. And this is the 8 billion people, the effect of these people you can see around us, which is causing all this talk about sustainability, global warming, ozone depletion, rising sea levels. So you can imagine that when we go beyond this, what is going to happen? Now, the world, when we have a lot of population, we need a lot of resources. And resources are coming from Mother Earth. So it is a finite set of resources. If you see again in the last few hundred years, every resource has grown. Means this is the population. And if we see the carbon dioxide levels, they have gone up significantly, especially in the last 20-30 years. They have reached to almost 350 to 400 ppm level in the atmosphere, which is said to be a tipping point. Historically, we were less than 200 ppm, but now we are at 400 ppm. So we are at danger level of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Then freshwater reuse, since we are capturing the freshwater use, currently we are at almost 5 trillion meter cube of water, out of which textile industry uses 4%. So rest of it goes to other industries, energy industry, and to sustain the population, because agriculture is one of the major users of water, as well as our daily sustenance. It also needs a lot of water. So as we are growing, as the world population is growing around the world, the need for fresh water is rising rapidly, but the sources are getting depleted. The fresh water is going down, it is getting contaminated, and the access to fresh water to increase number of people is getting more and more difficult. Then if we talk of the fertilizer consumption, or you can say any chemical consumption in general, the chemical consumptions have peaked in last 20-30 years. So the organized chemical industry in the last 50 years, it must have grown almost 30 or 40 times, because everything we do, it has needed a lot of chemicals to be used in our daily lives. And we can see that the recorded consumptions are picking up. The marine fish capture is also showing a rise, and the tropical forest loss also is going down. So all these are just few of the key parameters which are being tracked. There are thousands of such resource indicators, be it metals, minerals, agricultural produce, livestock, use of arable land, use of irrigable land, water. Everywhere the use of resources is getting maximized, because we have a large population to support. Now, if we see where this growth of people is coming, it is coming in this part of the world and this part of the world. So Asia is having the highest growth rates in the world, followed by Africa, or sometimes probably it will go that Africa will overtake the world and they will become larger populations. The population in this area is declining, but this area consumes almost 50 to 60% of world's resources. It is a smaller population, but the resource usage is high because they are affluent, they are prosperous countries. So since they have reached a level of advancement and economic development, they are able to afford use of more resources. And you can see any metric, energy use or cloth use or food grain use, they will be using at least 3 times the nearest Asian country or the African country. So this area is already a huge resource hungry area, but these areas are the aspiring areas. These are growing up. So in India, our per capita incomes are set to double every 5 years. With the current growth rate of 7 to 8%, will be doubling every 5 years, 5 to 6 years. So once the poor go to the lower middle class goes up, the resource consumption in this area is going to increase in similar pattern to this. So this will mean the larger populations will now need more energy, more water, and more resources, and that will create a very, very heavy strain on the entire system. Means whatever we are seeing, that is going to get accelerated, and that will go with a higher impact in the next 10, 20 or 30 years. So that is the period where we have to be mindful of our actions, which will overturn this change. If we see the use of energy consumption, a similar trend is there, that in the last 15-20 years, the energy use has gone more than double. And most of the current energy is coming from coal, gas, and fossil fuels. Very small portion is renewable, nuclear, and hydropower compared to the bigger mass, which is from the fossil fuels and coal. This is again a similar distribution. For going to a net zero on the energy sector, the International Energy Agency has an estimate that by 2050 we need to phase out all these fossil fuels and we should go to renewable sources. So renewable sources are solar, wind, tidal, and in some parts of the world nuclear. So these are, say, less energy intensive sources of power generation, and this will create a big boost to the sustainability efforts around the world, because energy is almost 50% of world's emissions. The direct emissions on energy generation are about 16%, and another 25-30% is the energy used in the different industries. So the global warming, as we can see, it is accelerating because of all the reasons which we have discussed so far. And now we are at around 0.8 degrees of warming compared to pre-industrial era, which was early 1900s. So the current state of the world is at 0.8 degrees, where we see that even the global average temperatures have gone up by 0.8 degrees, but in Europe, in many countries, the summers are hotter by 15 to 20 degrees. Many of the regions are reporting either excessive drought, excessive floods, or excessive heat or cold conditions, which are not in their normal atmospheric conditions. They have been changed, and the change is mainly attributed to the presence of carbon dioxide and the global warming other gases. So there are a lot of people who are concerned. UN is United Nations is driving a lot of efforts and research into this. They are trying to drive the governments and the corporates around the world through many programs. The leading is the IPCC, which is Intergovernmental Panel on the Climate Change. So that is the body which decides the COP26 and the COP27 and the other protocols, that what is the limit where the world will be into a very serious problem. So they expect that if we don't do anything, they call it business as usual. Means we don't do anything, we keep on consuming our resources and we keep on the way we are living, then we are expecting a 4 to 4.2 degrees warming in the next 30 to 50 years. So by 2050 to 2070, the global temperatures will be higher by 4 to 5 degrees. And 4 to 5 degrees is not that I change the thermostat of this air conditioner from 20 to 25 or 25 to 30. That means it changes the entire world as we know. The droughts will spread to most of the world. The rain will go away, and the heat and cold conditions would be so adverse that even the habitation and living a normal life would become difficult without assistance from some artificial device for heating or cooling. So they have projected that if we continue with the current policies, because there are a lot of policies around the world by governments and the companies which are trying to control, and that can bring it down to around 1.5 to 2.9 degrees. But that is also beyond the acceptable limit of the Earth's climate tolerance. So the best case target they assume is that if the world can bring it to a 1.5 degrees global warming, and for that they estimate that the global emissions should become net zero by 2050. So if our emissions are 50 billion tons today, they want it to become zero in year 2050, so that we are able to at least live normally. or with some slightly more discomfort, not to a condition where everything gets collapsed and there is no way to support this sustainability, the environment. So the one of the main questions here is that, are we considering what is the effect of this progress and the development? Because this is always the sustainability debate. When it started, it was against the development side of the world. So the people on the development side, they say, if we don't do the development, the poor will remain poor, or their conditions will become even worse. So to bring them out of the poverty cycle, we need to generate power, because the power will create industries, and that will create the higher level of living. So if we go by that logic, we are where we are. We are already using 1.7 times the Earth's capability of resources. At the current population, we are at 1.7 Earths. So we are consuming more than our fair share. We are not leaving anything for the future generation. We are just consuming it in the current generation. But if we want to continue at the same way, by 2050, we will need 3 Earths. But sadly, we have only 1. So what is the option? The option is, we cannot continue with business as usual. We have to change the way we see the progress. We have to change the way we see the industrialization, and we have to change the way we live. Because the current consumption patterns, it is not possible to sustain the world. To sustain the world, we will have to make the resource consumption within a fair limit. To bring that, it will need a lot of awareness, it will need a lot of education, and that can be brought by our younger people only. Because we have to start young. Even if we can start at the kindergartens and the primary level, it has to be built from there, that what is the importance of this, what are the consequences and what are the challenges, so that people keep on getting informed, they learn along the way, and in next 20-30 years, we can see a better world. So that is my take on sustainability. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. I think he drove this point very beautifully, that our earth belongs to our younger generation, and they should be more aware about the conditions that we are facing and the challenges they are going to face in future. Thank you so much, sir. Now we have Mr. Rajendra from Nepal. He is Deputy Director, Trade and Export Promotion Center. Dr. Rajendra, you are welcome to give your address.
Thank you, Professor IIT, sir. And thank you, PhD Chamber of Commerce, for giving me this opportunity within a very short period of time. And talking about the sustainability, I came here and learned a lot rather than giving you much. Working for last 23 years in the policy sector, and like Niti Ayog, that I am been into the committee of the trade policy that we are going to amend in our activities of the policy in Nepal itself. I happen to have an experience of suggesting, in a way, the policy makes and drives the future of the world that we live in. Let's not forget in the way that developing in a sense that we are also depleting the energies, and also the putting the footprints of the carbon that is being, or that my ex presenter, Mr. Sanjeev, and also the professor of IIT, Mr. Sunil Shah, has already defined about the developments in sectors that we have seen in. If supporting them, if we can lead in this region, and through the maybe India as a leader in this whole region, part of this world, and the growing sector of the textiles that we see here, if we make it sure that the policy and strategy to sensitize and to promote, in a way, that the carbon tax is being at the moment paid by the producers of the more carbon dioxide in a way who are fulfilling the sustainable working in the textile sector, then definitely the depletion of the cost by the use of more of the unsustainable way of developing the textiles can be supported by the use of organic or the other renewable natural fiber sources. So thereby the cost of the material that we produce in the natural way will definitely be balanced by the generation of more of the manual fibers, of which maybe beyond the hands of the producer, like in Sanjay, that in the morning we have been talking about the scope 3 kind of the sustainability thing, it is out of their hand when you are using the polyester fiber. Just you have the control of 20% in your industry. Afterward, where the 80% of the generation side is affected by the people that you use it, the consumer side. So who is going to sensitize and who is going to promote all these activities to generate and recycle, and the way that should be assorted in order to recycle those polyester fibers which has been used in the primary level, So talking about that, there should be a policy. And the UN Global Sustainable Development Agenda we have got, by 2030, we are going to reach all the agendas, and also a better way the pollution should be controlled, and also the better way the carbon should be neutralized by 2050. So if we can make a consortium from this region, part of the region, so that where the sustainable things of the fast fashions, should be controlled, or the limited to use of the best technologies which can reuse for many years. Because we have seen it in the practically, without very much knowledge of the simple processing in industries, in the textiles, you are using only one time of that textile product, because of maybe the finishes, because of maybe simple dyeing reason, because of maybe simple printing reasons, because they are not so fast, they are not so sustainable in a way, let us forget about the brands, let's forget about other treatments, beyond those, if we can also even control those best way of technologies adoption in those activities, then the use of those fashion products will be prolonged. In a sense, you are using much less of the garments than that you are actually owning at the moment. So if we can sensitize the people, this is our duty. Definitely, yesterday I saw Mr. Batra from the brand owner and promotion. I saw that it feels like it is in painstaking job for them to sensitize in the level of Bihar. He mentioned as a directly, there are, if you are using those brands everywhere, so you have to go and make accessible for the people. Where is it possible that the policy will guideline definitely, you don't have to go and then make their own what do you call the showrooms in those remote part of the world, but if the policy guides it, then definitely you will have to compel yourself to produce it in a way, so we're making the world a better place to live in and sustainable. And we don't need another Greta Thunberg from Sweden, so that she's making the voice as a small child who is going to school, and every day skipping the school, and make the people realize, oh, the development and the economical sustainability is on other side, and the environment sustainability is a one part of the world. We never should forget that this is for the world is for next thousands of years ahead of us. It should remain as it is, and we should not be afraid to live in this part of the world, because we see sometimes natural calamities happen. Then we realize, oh, because of the natural depletion of the energy and pollution and elsewhere, then only we realize what will become the next third generation of this generation. If in the future, if the depletion of the energy and the insustainable way of producing all those material through the fashion that we have been talking about for the last 2 days, if it goes on like this in the near future for 20 years from now, definitely we would be too late to understand about the impact of those. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay. I would like to say one thing. He also pointed out this thing. It should be very, very important that what the kind of world we are living today, we should leave this earth in a better position to our future generations. He's talked about 1,000 years. I have some more things to say about this. I have had the opportunity to, visit Nepal. It's a beautiful country, and probably not as industrialized as we have seen other countries. And Nepal and Bhutan, these are the two countries who are going to face the brunt of this global warming very seriously. And we can understand their concern about this sustainability. Also, the people are not probably using resources as we are in other parts of the world. And probably it is difficult for them to see why a person is going to throw a product or a textile material, after so few uses. So I think we should be able to understand their perspective as well, because it is very important. Thank you, Mr. Rajendra. Thank you so much, sir. And finally, I'm sorry, Dr. Pal, you have been waiting for such a long time. I'll ask you to deliver your address, and I would request you to focus specifically on a few things which probably we have missed so far. That is supply chain visibility and supply chain resilience. Two aspects in addition to whatever you are going to say. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Buttola. I'm definitely not waiting for a long time. I have been enjoying the lovely presentations beforehand, and I will build on that. Try to bridge between the digitalization avenue that Professor Jha started with, and then with the sustainability orientation the next speakers have been saying. And again, apologies to be virtually present. I would have loved to be there, but because of the logistics reasons and so on and so forth, I couldn't make it on for this day. But again, thank you very much to PhD Chamber of Commerce and also IIT Delhi for this invitation. To make the life easy for everybody, as I'm presenting virtually, I have prepared a set of slides. I will use that as a background material to sort of pitch my talk. And then from there, I'm very flexible also how you want me to address that, particularly the questions that Professor Buttola asked me to raise. So just a couple of seconds before I share my slides. I hope it will be visible to you. So just give me a heads up whether you can see my slides.
Yes, it is visible.
Perfect. So I'll start with some examples, and I will not go into this because you will have loads of material if you just Google search them. But just to say that digitalization in the textile, footwear, and apparel industry is not far-fetched. We have excellent examples all over the world, and just to highlight a few of them, just to fit into the slides, but I think they are quite pioneering and revolutionizing the digital transformation activities. For instance, Adidas with this robotics made shoes or footwear. They have this speed factory concept in Germany. Hugo Boss is doing it in Turkey, Asia. They have this smart factory concept, which is sort of geared with a set of digital tools, be it AI, AR, VR. You have Professor Jha mentioning about the Industry 5.0 concept, where they are actually practicing it with speech recognition, human-computer interaction, and more than human-computer interaction, human-centered AI research incorporated within a luxury apparel sector. Quite interesting how they built upon that since 2005 onwards, and within like maybe 15 years or so, has really revolutionized this very small factory in Izmir in Turkey into a very large global pioneering example in smart factory concept applied in the apparel context. And then we have Nike as an example, where they started with this mass customization long before around early 2000. And now, even during the COVID crisis, I was just reading today morning that how they have been showing a counterintuitive trend during the COVID, where companies have been struggling in terms of keeping profitability. They have been based upon digital sales, and digital sales channels have been sort of plummeting in their revenue generation. Again, economic sustainability is not the only silver lining factor here. We need to think about the other aspects. So here, what I try to focus a little bit is that digitalization, digital tools doesn't stay in space. They work in a particular organization. They work with a certain context to business, and of course the extended supply chain. And there are certain change agents which needs to drive this. Otherwise, if we have a set of lovely tools, digital tools, digital transformation, we do not know how to use them, we do not know how to implement them, then tools are of no use, basically. So I'll try to point out a set of tools. Again, this list is not exhaustive, just to keep up on the toe. There is, of course, different types of digital forays or digital transformation activities going on at different parts of the value chain. Just to highlight a little bit, from the design and product development part within an apparel value chain, you have CAD systems, you have computer-based sampling and digital fitting. AR, VR is transforming the way we think about designing and product development in order to reduce our consumptions in the design and prototyping phase. And that has an impact to the sustainability, because you are now reducing the lead time of design and product development. You are making it faster. You are reducing the amount of waste coming out from the design and product development processes, and the material waste in that way is reduced, which is the post-industrial or pre-industrial waste. So there is an impact on sustainability in that way. And then we move further along the value chain. We have sourcing. One of the key aspects within the apparel industry is long-distance sourcing, global sourcing, which is an important aspect of globalization for sure. But how digital transformations are sort of creating platforms of sourcing platforms, interconnected digital platforms, order management systems for handling bill of materials, for instance. And that has an implication again towards sustainability. It increasing the visibility in your supply chain. It is increasing the level of transparency and traceability within your supply chain. We are having better quality control, and that has in one way impact on the sustainable aspect in terms of narrowing the resource consumption, energy consumption along the processes. Moving on a little bit further, also in the production and manufacturing, Professor Jha also mentioned about the use of agile systems and flexible systems. Increasingly, we see that digitalization is creeping into production. We have to address the fact that textile and apparel industry is predominantly like agricultural industry. It's a human-intensive industry, and it is one of the major not only revenue generator in several countries, but also a job creator in many countries. And I think it's sort of a paradoxical in the sense that we need to think about digitalization, not also at the same point not to sort of overshoot the other impacts of digitalization. Let's consider if digitalization is going to take away X number of jobs in the next 5 years. Are we in that way really using digitalization for the sake of improving our sustainability, or we are creating a new problem through digitalization? Of course, this needs to be thought in a very systemic way. And I think there are, of course, new roles coming up in order to digitalize as well. Just going back into the industry 2.0 back in the 1930s, basically there was a slump and when there was a lot of job loss, but then the whole workforce industry changed in terms of how to handle new technology. So then we created new generation of change agents and workflows requirements, and that is the way we need to think how digitalization can be supplementing the social sustainability impacts as well. Going a little bit downstream along the value chain, we see that there are also, again, a lot of digitally connected platforms with technologies like 3D solutions, big data coming in, the role of data in retailing format, and particularly a very important aspect because the retail are at the interface between business to consumer, but at the same time business to business as well. So there we see a lot of new type of platforms and marketplaces coming up, like for example, social media commerce and marketing channels as well. Professor Jai again mentioned about the ThreadUp, and what is excellent about ThreadUp is their business to consumer interface. They are working in a such a systemic, integrated way with an end-to-end digital integration there, and that also again has an impact towards sustainability in terms of customer interaction, monitoring, improving traceability, for instance. And then not to forget the other side, which often in a linear value chain or a linear supply chain, we do not recognize, but increasingly we are talking about circular supply chain, circular economy. And there the importance of circular logistics comes into aspects like how then the problem is that the source here is not from the suppliers or from the production side, it is from the consumers. We need to sort of reverse channelize this. So there are a lot of different technologies coming up, like smart technologies for recycling, for recognizing products in order to sort, like automatic sorting systems, which we see in the plastic industry, but textile is a complicated product when it comes to blends. So sorting requires large degrees of different technological interventions like NIR, for instance. So we see a lot of advanced manufacturing technologies coming up in this area as well. To sum up, as I said, that this is not an exhaustive list, but we see a lot of different types of technologies. I feel free to I'll share my presentations if that is required at the end of the day as well. So we see that along the value chain, a set of different technologies, some are more prominent, some are more scalable than the others. What I try to capture here a little bit is the role of AI sort of seems to be sort of cross-cutting all the aspects of the supply chain. Big data needs to be there. Unless we have the data, reliable, robust, verified data, we cannot build all these machine learning technologies or AI-based technologies very much. Blockchain, for instance, is working quite a lot. That is an important drive at the United Nations level, particularly at the European Economic Commissions for Europe, to create a multi-layer, transnational framework on blockchain-based traceability in order to improve ESG, environmental, social, and governance sustainability. And that is sort of transforming, I think, quite a lot, big drive coming up these days. Again, this is a little bit of busy slide. So as I said, I will share the presentations. I will, no problem at all. But what I try to highlight, I will not go into detail of these, is that there are different trends, digital trends, transformational change, sustainability as a key driver to change. We see increasing consumers are becoming aware. Of course, perhaps in the States or Europe, consumer has been made aware for a longer time, but we see in the emerging countries, for example, the BRIC nations, consumers are much more aware than that was like 10 years back or even 5 years back. We see the role of digital intervention. Just consider how many of you do food shopping or some sort of shopping now online as it was compared to 5 years back. So increasingly, digitalization is creeping into our day-to-day life. And that is an important driver, because unless we have these ball game changed, which will be very difficult, then we create square peg in a round hole in that one way. And then again, the digital technologies like Industry 4.0 related aspects, smart factory, micro factory, blockchain is quite coming up, addressing the aspect of supply chain visibility and traceability. So there is a lot of technologies and trends coming up, and not to forget also digital printing, which is quite new and unscalable at this moment in the apparel industry because of the particular material we handle in a textile and apparel industry context. But it is seen that there is a major drive, particularly from the footwear companies' point of view. So what I highlighted here, that with these different trends, particularly hinging on digitalization and sustainability, we also see the key drivers of making a change, which is the supply chain and the business models are also transforming, and also they need to change, because otherwise we will have trends coming in, the global shift in an episodic way, but then the businesses are not thinking ahead of it. So basically, will be a reactive solution rather than a proactive solution. So what we see, of course, we know some of these like interconnected global supply chains. You mentioned about resilience. Professor Zha also spoke about the resilience and the aspect of energy prices going up, calamities like COVID and the current war creating a large disruption and turbulence in the global supply chain. And there we see a lot of localization or at least regionalization. India is a big country, so there is a lot of resources and also a lot of self-sufficiency in one way. So there is a possibility of creating a local interconnected value chain. What we see in Europe is there is some degrees of internal European dependence, for instance, regional within the European Union, for instance, but also there is a lot of aspects related to that as well. So we see that there is a growth of local interconnected solutions or supply chains coming up even more than earlier. Of course, I'm not here arguing that it will overtake or overshadow a globally distributed network of supply chain, which has been there for several decades or several centuries or as well. Globalization is not going to be replaced, but these are alternative supply chain models and value chain models that we see increasingly emerging. But also another drive towards supply chain is moving from products towards services. We increasingly see companies like Airbnb, Amazon, for instance, Zipcars, or the rental car system. We are increasing servitizing. So we see a drive towards servitizing of our products. And there we see it sometimes difficult to address that in traditional industries like apparel, but we clearly see that how renting, leasing, subscription have been coming up. Maybe 15 years back, we have never thought about renting office electricity supplies. Philips, for example, revolutionized that by changing that you can pay per lux scheme. So these type of schemes are also coming up in terms of in the textile and apparel value chain as well. We also see a drive from closed supply chains towards very open supply chains, which means that it's typically in a global supply chain, as you believe in, is that you have a core competency of a certain actor, and the rest, where we do not have a core competency, you outsource, you sort of distribute the work of doing. A company which is good at retailing, doesn't know how to do manufacturing, then we see that they're manufacturing from certain external agents. But increasingly what we see is an open network of companies in sort of a microfactory concept, and there the layer of digitalization is increasingly important. A set of factories working cohesively, and there is perhaps a digital infrastructure which is connecting them in order to order place, allocate orders flexibly, small series order placements, and that is increasingly we see in several industries. In the car industries, we could see actually competing brands are collaborating for sharing resources and platform sharing models, and also we see that in the furniture sector. So there are some transitions going on also in the apparel sector as well. And also, again, not to forget about from being producer and production centric to more consumer driven. And these all have an impact towards sustainability. For instance, we do not need to produce more than what is the need. Otherwise, we'll end up with this huge, which is a problem of overproduction. So why not move to high value manufacturing? And high value here is not only luxury, but value from the point of view of consumers' use perspective as well. So what we see is different types of business models within this supply chain and value chain models are also emerging. Some of the models like outsourced production models are very familiar to us because these have been the main drivers of the textile and apparel industries for several decades. We also see textiles clusters, for instance, coming a lot, for instance, with specializations, for instance. For example, heavy knitting. Bangladesh is a very big cluster of heavy knitting. Turkey, for example, denim, for it. Technical Textiles, India, for instance. So there we see textile clusters as interconnected value chains and changing the role and scalability of such local value chains. But at the same time, with digital interfaces, we see a lot of microfactory concepts coming up as well. New business models in terms of the hybrid product service systems, like service as a product, companies thinking how to sell services of their products rather than the product itself. And then several digital platforms are also coming up, be it in the retailing sector, but also in the manufacturing domain as well. From the consumer side, we see a large increase in personalization, made to measure, mass customization increasing. And in fact, there has been a report by Boston Consultancy Group just the last year, which sort of says that any type of retail e-commerce sector would be actually growing tenfold in the next 5 years. And there is a chance that we'll be sort of overshooting the regular physical brick and mortar shelves and distribution channels in the next 10 years. So, and increasingly we see that in the COVID times, many people have not been going into the shops very much, but offering buying and ordering online. But of course, everything is not a rosy and green space in front of us. There are a lot of barriers, particularly in terms of scalability. Scalability here, what I try to understand is more from the operational scalability, and these has implications in terms of their impacts as well, and impacts in the terms of sustainability impacts. If you are not able to scale up sustainable supply chains and sustainable business models, then that has an implication on not improving the sustainable performance of your businesses and organizations. So we see that there are a lot of barriers still. For example, technological limitations in terms of replicating physical properties virtually. People has sort of quote unquote have went to the moon, but when you now try to really perfect a textile fabric into a digital format, it's still, there is a huge difference between, there are of course companies like Clo 3D and others coming up, but there is it's not that realistic. So there is a lot of technological limitations there. When it comes to blockchain, I think there is a lot of technological limitations still available. We have implemented that in the textile supply chain at the pilot level, in the multi-tier level, but still to scale it up, there is a need for unified certification schemes that one of our previous speaker was talking about, the different certifications, and they need to hinge towards the traceability aspects within a unified supply chain as well, because you need to certify different aspects of a product supply chain. In the retailing sector, we see also that how to improve the browsability, AI-based support for the consumers. Consumers the technologies have to be user-friendly, for instance. And then a huge lot of technological forays in the circular logistics and circular economy sector, but also, again, as I mentioned, separating multi-blend, multi-layered products and making it monomaterial so that they can be easily recyclable. It's a hugely difficult task. Still, companies are making technological interventions, but still we have perhaps only sitting at by the end of the main problem. So of course it comes with a lot of scalability challenges, but I think there is a drive towards the digital transformation already. Another important aspect here, as I would like to highlight before I end up my short talk, is that we need to think from the business scalability point of view, organizational scalability point of view, but there are key intervention actors, change agents who makes this happen, basically. So I'll try to highlight three main intervention aspects. One is the traditional roles, like this increasing role of the material researchers in developing new material. Just example is that, our circularity problems, our recyclability problems would be much easier if we can, from the beginning, design for circularity. If we can think about products which are modular, we can make it monomaterial products. So there is a very systemic role played by the material recyclers in order to make this change happen. when it comes to technologies, recycling technologies, how to segregate technologies, how to identify products at the sorting level, because that has an impact on the recyclability and the circularity of the products as well. We see that user-centric researchers are increasingly coming out how to really make this as an impact for the consumers, because otherwise, if the consumer awareness is not built, that will be then the missing part of the puzzle. We see that digital manufacturing aspects, as I mentioned earlier, and also previous speakers have mentioned as well. So some of these traditional roles are getting digitalized or digitally transformed in terms of their competencies. We also see new digital roles being formed, and there we see that maybe some digitalization technologies could replace all traditional roles, but new roles, new job skill, new skill sets will be emerging. That could be in terms of new industrial designers, digital designers, chief technology officers in an apparel company. We normally do not have that. Of course, in the upstream companies like material producers, we have that important role. But a brand, for instance, or a technology or a retailer, for instance, do not have that with the aspect of how to digitalize their retail segment as well. An increasing drive towards UX and UI, user interface designing, to make it actually visible in a user-centric way, is a user-friendly way for the consumers and the users. But also we see a lot of new roles in the terms of bridging the design and the tech team. There comes the role of new interdisciplinary background, both at the educational level, but also in the business level, not to think from silo point of view, but thinking cross-cutting roles, which can actually think from a multidisciplinary perspective in a problem-solving way. So digital product managers, creative technologists, like a blend and hybrid among these digital roles, change agents, digital knowledge managers, for example, who talk about certifications, legal aspects as well. So these type of cross-fusion roles will be emerging more and more, and there is a need for that in the transformational landscape as well. So I'll end my presentation at this moment, and just let me know, Professor Butola, if I have answered the aspect of resilience implicitly through my presentation, or you need me to elaborate a little bit further.
Thank you, Professor Paul. Thank you so much. We'll have a brief question answer session, and I will see whether somebody would like to be specifically asking any questions on that, whatever you have covered so far. Okay. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I think we have come to the end of this session, and I'd like to add a few points. We have been talking about systems and sustainability and circularity, and at some stage you need some technologies which will you can call them green or sustainable or something like that. So I particularly work in that area where I am a person from chemical processing of textile. Okay. And I work with the technologies where we are trying to, develop water-free processing of textiles. Water-free means, technologies where you do not either use water or chemicals or both for, pre-treatment of textiles, or recovery of, dyes from wastewater, or destruction of dyes in the wastewater to recover water. So that is my area where I work. Now the session is open to any questions. If you have any questions, you can ask the panelists. Please raise your hand, tell your name, and then specifically name the person you would like to ask the question. Now you can, it's open. Yeah, please tell your name and
So this challenges between the machine and human being is not from Industry 4. It's being started after the automation being taken up in Industry 3 onward actually. Industry 4 is trying to make system more accessible remotely, and then to some extent it's also enabling people. For example, we talk about augmented reality as a technology. It's not just replacing the role of a human worker, but it's empowering him with more knowledge on the real-time basis so that he can take the right decisions actually. So when we think about Industry 4, none of the technology except to some extent the ML and then AI we keep talking about, they are going to replace the traditional decision making processes, but still the creativity with the human being and the role that he can play in the whole system is not debated till now actually. So we always find there's a coexistence of a human being, certainly not at the labor level, because we may have to upskill them to take up a different responsibility in the whole system. So unless you are not upgrading your skills, you are not enabling people to do the more creative task, then this challenge will persist actually, whether it's in a 3, 4 or 5, whatever industrial revolution will come up. So we need to rightly find out the role of a human being in the whole system, and that's how Industry 5 is still more emphasizing on that aspect. So we look forward that I think there will not be any time where people get eliminated in the whole system of manufacturing.
Please use mic.
One thing that I would really want to touch upon this, I am Girija Jha, Associate Professor with National Institute of Fashion Technology. And I must say that we may have adaptations of Industry 4, 5, whatever, but one sector which is kind of untouched so far by so much of industrialization or automation is the handloom sector, where India is undoubtedly the leader. 95% of the handloom products coming from our country. So that is, I think, one area where our social fingerprinting or our social sustainability aspects can, kind of bridge the gap, rather than, just looking at one facet of it, which is the ready-made garment industry. So we can also take that as a, a dimension which we can address. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. So I don't have a question. Sorry, my name is Anil. I am from EcoCert. I have my colleague Vincent there. So there was a question related to Sri Lanka, which I want to address or add my comments here. So first of all, the government of Sri Lanka, they decided to ban entire agriculture with chemical farming. First of all, this will never ever happen in any country, any state. Organic, sustainable will never replace the conventional farming or the production system we have. If you take example of Sri Lanka, so they banned everything and they gave on a time, okay, you need to start organic farming by imposing sanctions and all that. So first of all, the companies were not ready. The soil is not ready. And the biggest problem was there was no market for this organic product coming out of Sri Lanka. So that decision actually put a lot of pressures. And I visited Sri Lanka very frequently because of the projects we have there. So the industry people are also saying that, yes, there is a huge scope of organic, but entire country cannot be converted into organic. Same goes with sustainable. Sustainability will never replace whatever we have today. There is also reason of developing countries and developed countries. So for example, 20 years back, the affordability I had to buy a car or clothing was not there. Now I have. So I can't say I want to be sustainable. I don't want to buy cars. I don't buy clothing. So there are a lot of people in these developing countries who have the money at disposable and they want to use it to buy things. So this is another another angle to this situation. So sustainability has to be driven as a small percentage to begin with, and this will, I don't think, will replace the conventional way of doing things.
My comment on that will be that if you go with the business as usual, then we are going to face the picture which was not very rosy and which was a picture, demonstrated by Mr. Sanjeev from. So another 40 years, if we continue doing like this, this generation is going to face this, you know.
Point here is the intentions of Sri Lanka government was very good. It was very good for the people, soil, everything. But what is the point of getting into a sustainable model or organic model where the entire country collapse? So what I'm saying is it has to be done gradually, not as a sudden measure to change everything the way business has been done.
Yes. I don't have a question, but I need Dr. Pal's email ID.
Actually,
Yeah.
you can address the question to him.
Dr. Pal,
Yes, I can hear you.
yeah, I need an email ID actually. Can you tell us, or how should I take it from Pete's Jumbo?
Okay. I think I can repeat my email ID, but maybe it would be easier if you contact Mr. Rakesh and he can provide it to you.
Okay.
That would be perhaps
You
easier.
can get in touch with me. Huh?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anybody has any questions to Dr. Pal, because he's in Sweden? I think, Dr. Pal, your address was very well delivered. I don't think there are any questions from that.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
But I request Dr. Pal, we need the copy of your presentation so that
I will send it to you during the day. I'll send it to Mr. Rakesh, and then perhaps you can circulate it as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right.
No problem.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, then we come to the end of the session, and I would like to briefly summarize the discussions that were taken place here, and we'll begin with Dr. Jha. He emphasized the need, or you can say the trend of technology 5.0. It was not initially in the scope because we were talking about only Industry 4.0, but he has brought out this point that we are actually moving towards Industry 5.0, and where the shift from a machine-centric activity, we are moving towards human-centric activity. And he touched upon other topics also, but I think that was the main theme. And then Mr. Vincent, he touched the certification part, and it was actually very, very informative for me also, that there are different kind of certifications for natural fibers. Then recycled fibers also have some kind of certification. And then Mr. Sanjeev brought this point home that, I mean, this sustainability is not a business for only these corporates. This is everybody's responsibility now, because everybody is going to be affected in the long run. And Dr. Paul talked about sustainability, the supply chain, and the other aspects. So I think this was overall a very, very informative session. And I would like to thank all the stakeholders here, my colleagues on the dais, the audience here, fellow teachers, the students and gentlemen and ladies. I would like to thank all of you for sparing your time to attend this session, and especially this PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry for organizing this in a very, very nice manner. Especially Mr. Rakesh, he has been with us for the last 2.5 months and contributed to a successful culmination of this summit. We hope to see more of such summits in future, because when we met for the first time, we decided that this is going to be a regular feature and not an one-off event. So thank you, everybody. I will hope to meet maybe next year soon in a bigger way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Batola. Thank you so much. Before posing a formal vote of thanks. I thank everyone, and I request my colleague to please hand over a small token of memento and the plant to the dignitaries on the dais. I request my colleague, Mr. Arun Gupta, to please present a memento and a plant to Professor Butola. Thank you, Professor Butola, for conducting this session beautifully. I invite my another colleague, Kamal, to please present a token of memento to Mr. Vincent, as well as the gift. And to Mr. Sanjeev Sinha as well. And Arun to please give it to Mr. Sanjeev Sinha, Mr. Rajender from Nepal. Last, Rajender. And Ms. Kamal to Professor Sunil Jha. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now we are at the end of 2 days session, Sustainable Textile Summit. I think we have touched upon the several points, and some within the agenda and some outside the agenda, but we have learned a lot, and this was first ever initiative jointly with IIT and PhD Chamber, and we have very good support available from all of you, as well as from the Government of India, from Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, as well as from Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Textile. So that was a good support. We will keep on this initiative continued later on also. I think whatever the shortcomings in this first ever initiative, I think we'll definitely overcome in our future editions. And thank you very much, IIT, for being a knowledge partner for this summit. And as you are doing a functional textiles conference also, so we are looking forward for joining hand with you for that functional textile conference also, which you are, I think, doing annual session. So that will be, I think, we'll be having a good startup with the functional textiles also. And thank you so much. And at the end, I would also like to thank, sincere thanks to our partners, MSME and GIZ developed program, and our premium partner, LNJ Bhilwara Group, RSWM, and associate partner Reliance Industries, Philatex India, and Orilcon Textile, and IIT at the end. Thank you so much, and we look forward to meet up again for these kind of programs, which will benefit not only the industry. We have collaborated with some academic institutions also. I think that is also a good learning to the students also, because they are basically the future, and they need to know that what future trends are there, and sustainability they have to adopt from the beginning itself, so that whatever they are doing, maybe in the fashion industry or textile industry, so this aspects they should always keep it in mind. So I think this will definitely go a long way. And the vision for the industry, like we have to be carbon free in coming years. So maybe the target is too high, the 2070, but I think if we collectively do, so it will definitely be achieved as early as possible. Thank you so much. Wish you good luck. Thank you so much. Please join us for the lunch outside.